It was 6 years ago now, on my 20th birthday, I slipped on a bouncy castle and sustained an isolated PCL tear, and saw a specialist then, and he recommended just conservative management. So I went into physio and in and out of braces then for the next 5 years. And last year in April, whilst playing squash, I twisted and rotated in the wrong way and managed to re-injure the PCL, but I also then injured my PLC, which was very painful and then turned out required some intervention. It became constantly painful, and I wouldn't even say it was more so when I was weight bearing or not. It was just sort of a constant state, which I hadn't experienced the first time I'd had a ligament injury. So this kind of made me think it was maybe a bit more sinister. So that's when I sort of sought to get a consultation. Fairly broad aching pain. I had a really significant sag of my tibia. So especially around the front, it could be hot to the touch, even through jeans at times with the amount of inflammation I was experiencing. After my initial injury and with the conservative management, I got to a stage where with a brace, something similar to this, I was able to do everything I wanted. So I would go for runs, I was playing sport, tennis and badminton and squash, and I would get a little bit of inflammation if I did too much, or standing or walking around town all day, I would normally need to sort of ice my knee. After the more recent injury, I was very heavily disabled by it, and I had to pretty much go straight onto crutches for right up until my operation. Stairs became very troublesome. Going to shops and no form of physical exercise. I could do a little bit of upper body stuff, but I had to be sitting and didn't have a huge amount of motivation because of the pain I was in. And I was also studying at the time, which made being on the heavy drugs quite a challenge. I pretty much stopped driving because, again, I was on the painkillers. I wasn't allowed to drive on tramadol. I saw my GP and he did an assessment and sort of told me, right, this needs to go up the chain a bit. So he recommended I see a specialist in Glasgow. So I went to see someone there, and they did an MRI scan. And on his examination, he believed I'd torn my anterior cruciate this time, which I wasn't entirely convinced by, especially in the week after that consultation. The amount of pain that I was in wasn't what I experienced in my original ligament injury. I remember it being unstable but not painful. So that's when I sought out a second opinion down here with Professor Wilson, and he pretty much told me from the same MRI images that I had a very complex injury. He told me on the spot that it is non-negotiable that I needed an operation, that my knee was so badly damaged that I couldn't go without, basically. So it was a mixed bag because, okay, now I need a fairly major operation, and that's scary, and nobody wants to have an operation. And by that stage, the year that I'd had, if anything could be done to A, stop the pain, and B, give me function in my knee back, I was prepared to do it. Professor Wilson made it kind of abundantly clear his confidence in the procedure, and had told me that he is here to help me and get my knee back to a functional level, and I can get back to sport and I can get back to this. So that gave me a lot of confidence in and gave me almost an expectation of the outcome. I expected it to be painful as well leading up to it, because I had an arthroscopy with him in the July leading into the operation, and that was painful in the days afterwards. But he had sort of told me there was a risk of things not working, which again was kind of scary. That you could have permanent nerve damage, you could have, the graft might fail, and that sort of, I might not get the full movement again. So it kind of gave me a lot to think about. Is the operation worth it? Is it, this? But in my situation, it really wasn't much of an option. I kind of had to gamble my chips and go with his recommendation. When I woke up in the recovery room, they were, giving me some morphine to keep the pain under control. And I was in a lot of discomfort from the procedure. And they ended up putting me onto a morphine drip, just temporarily. So I think I was on that for just the first night. I don't know, I never really had a lot of morphine in the past, this is, other than my arthroscopy, my first operation under general anesthetic. And I don't know whether it was my absorption to it or whatever, but it didn't seem to alleviate much of my discomfort. So the first couple of days were a bit of a challenge, and then Professor Wilson came in to see me because he'd heard that I was struggling and really shouldn't have been, and he put me onto quite a few painkillers and said, right, let's start from the top, let's get you to where you're not in pain, and then we'll start reducing things until we work out what is the right level sort of for me. It was a challenging first couple of days, but from there on, it kind of, things got a bit better. But my stay in hospital was very exceptionally pleasant, to be honest. It was, the staff were all amazing and had sort of my own room, and so it wasn't terrible. We actually decided to stay in Basingstoke. So my fiance and I actually rented just a temporary black apartment here for 6 weeks preceding the operation, so that I'm close, because if I were to go home and there'd be any complications or problems, we kind of wanted to stay nearby. There wasn't actually an unexpected visit. However, it did mean I was on hand to see the in-house physios in the initial stages, which for me was actually very valuable, because they work with Professor Wilson and they're in very close contact. So he got the notes of all of my physio sessions, and they were very aware of exactly what the operation had been, exactly how it had gone, and I felt very in very good hands. A lot of the information I had said that I will be in a straight leg brace for multiple months, and no weight bearing at all. I will be on the underarm crutches and all this sort of stuff. When I saw the physio the day after my operation, he said, right, on your feet, we're going for a walk down the hall. And I was sort of like, what? And he explained that braces have come a long way. A lot of research has been done on techniques, and it's all about getting me up and moving as soon as possible to get everything going. So I actually have a photo of me the day after my operation standing in the corridor, at the time pain-free, because there's still a lot of pain relief in the system. I was in the straight leg, it was a Medi immobilizer brace. I was in that for the first 3 weeks, I think it was, 3 weeks. And that was just allowing everything to heal, and that was touch bearing, I was told. So with elbow crutches, just putting the ball of my foot on the ground, but not really any weight through it. And I got into this after when I came out of that one straight into this. And I saw the Medi rep came because I'm believed to be the first patient to ever wear it. And he came to help me, show me how it worked and fit it for me properly. And I pretty much told him straight away, it's one of the most comfortable braces I've worn. Because I've had DonJoy braces in the past, and I had a Medi brace for the first time with my new injury through Adrian. And then he said that we've been developing this new one that's just for post PCL surgery, and it's been brilliant. Very comfortable, it's very light, and I need to wear it the whole time. I'm now full weight bearing. I still am doing steps one at a time to avoid extra strain through it. But I have a protocol sheet that I was given the day after my operation that had it set out from week 1 right up until the end, virtually end of this year, of exactly what I'm allowed to do, what exercises, what touch bearing, weight bearing, which brace I'm going to be in. So again, there was a lot of information given to me, so I knew exactly what was coming. I've got to say, all of my expectations have been vastly surpassed. I was expecting maybe not to get full function back, or maybe be a bit of pain lingering, maybe, you know, it would fail or anything like this. As soon as I wasn't in pain anymore, I was kind of had a smile on the inside the whole time. Just that was great. A lot of the content I had seen, especially to do with the PLC reconstruction, what I ended up getting wasn't what I was expecting, because a lot of the stuff online was a large incision from back here down to here in order to gain access to the area, whereas I have two 2-centimeter scars, where he's gone in with a minimally invasive technique that I think he's been a part of developing. So it was interesting, and I think valuable to go and do research and look at that. But I mean, the best thing you can do is speak to the people who you're looking at going with. So Adrian gave me all of the information about my operation, and you know, that's kind of was the best place to go, really.